Tom Bowles here with Stephen Stumpf at Victory Lane at Dover Motor Speedway for Frontstretch.com. I was looking for Miles the Monster. I thought one of us might get a trophy, but turns out the brothers Truex ran away with both of them. A brothers win at Dover for the first time since 1994. Rusty Wallace and Mike Wallace, in the NASCAR Xfinity and Cup Series. What an amazing series of races we saw, even though we had to wait an extra day for the Cup race at Dover. Stephen, what were your impressions of Martin Truex Jr. today? Ending his 54 race winless streak. What a great win for the family, but also huge for a guy that's not sure he's going to be back in 2024 and, had been going back and forth a little bit, jawing on the radio with James Small, even today, making it seem like there might even be a crew chief change in the offing. All of a sudden they have a victory and maybe poised to get on a roll here.
I think Truex ran a fantastic race. The 19 team was great as well. Truex started 17th. He didn't get to the front immediately, but he slowly worked his way up as the laps ticked down. By the end of the final stage, he was running top three, second behind Ross. The final round of green flag pit stops, he short pitted and got to the lead. And on the final caution with Joey Logano, he took 2 tires and was able to hold off everyone else with 4. I think he ran a perfect race. The strategy was perfect. And with Ryan dominating the Xfinity race before, as you said, what a great weekend for that family.
The Truexes are not an emotional bunch. Martin said of his father how quiet he is, but you could tell how much this victory meant to everybody in the Truex clan. This is their home track. Grew up in nearby Mayetta, New Jersey. So, Martin Truex Jr., his 3rd victory, I believe, at Dover, and 2 of them were in postponed events, including his first ever Cup victory in 2007. Now, the other big takeaway that we're going to be talking about this week happened with Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, and Brennan Poole. Midway through the first stage, and there's no other way to say it, Ross just simply ran over Brennan Poole headed into turn 1, turned the 15 car around right in front of the 5 of Larson, ruined both their days. Larson was very upset right afterwards with Chastain on the radio, and Stephen, he ends up blocking Ross late in the race. It was a move that cost him a second when he was battling Truex. Really didn't end up mattering much because of the final caution. The two ended up battling for the win anyways. But what do we take from that in terms of, how drivers going to treat Ross going forward? I talked to Kyle after the race, and he was very clear that, hey, I'm sorry really doesn't seem to be enough anymore. And he was kind of making the point that Ross says he's sorry, but these errors really don't affect him negatively. He still comes out on the good end of the stick in most of these situations. So will we see more incidents like Larson's going forward, where we're going to see Chastain blocked at the end of the race?
Not sure, but as we all know, there's only so many times someone can say sorry before it starts to lose its meaning if it keeps happening. Obviously, Larson was frustrated. Obviously, Brennan Poole's also frustrated, given how early the contact was as well. And, if things don't change with Ross, I don't think it's unfair to say that people are going to start blocking him or, trying to make his life hard every single week.
Ross is usually pretty talkative when it comes to the media and open about his mistakes. When asked about Larson's block, he said no comment. I found that very interesting, especially because he went out of his way to say how he was going to go talk to Rick Ware and Brennan Poole about the wrecked 15 car. As for Poole, was very clear about what needs to happen with Ross. Sounds like he needs to get his butt whooped, was his quote. So moving on to some other storylines before we wrap up. I thought the performance of RFK Racing was very strong. You had 2 cars in the top 10, Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski. They're both in the top 12 in points right now, so you just see RFK Racing continue to develop. If not for an uncontrolled tire early on, Keselowski was in the top 5. You could even make the argument he would have been challenging for the race win. Stephen, you got a chance to talk to a lot of drivers after the race. What other storylines stood out for you as we go forward to Kansas? Who should we, if I can speak English, be talking about this week?
So Ford's now 1 of 11 on the season. RFK was good, but also a big surprise was Ryan Blaney, who was basically running 3rd the entire day. It was his best finish at Dover, and it was a good performance when Penske just struggled otherwise, and Ford kind of struggled as a whole. And then also Hamlin was looking really fast towards the beginning of the race, but pit stops kind of did his team in kind of in the middle. He wasn't very happy with Bell when trying to get back to the field. So, it was also a great day for JGR. That might be something to watch between the 11 and 20 going forward.
Certainly some teammate issues with JGR, a little bit of a mixed bag for them. Ty Gibbs was in the top 5 before having a fueling issue late. And I want to mention on Penske, for Blaney, that was the first back-to-back top 5 finishes for any Penske driver this year. Defending champion Joey Logano caused the final caution, was many laps down all day with tire cording issues. It'll be interesting to see what happens at Penske moving forward. You could even make the argument that RFK Racing might be the strongest Ford team all around right now. But it's time for us to get out of here before the wind and the rain kicks up again at Dover Motor Speedway. For Stephen Stumpf, I'm Tom Bowles. You can find us Stephen_Stumpf on Twitter, NASCAR Bowles for me, and then all the great content that we produce over at Frontstretch.com and at Frontstretch on Twitter. Stephen will see you next week at Kansas. I'll see you around the bend.
This is Harrison Burton, driver the number 21. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, check out one of these 2 videos beside me. Visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.